Deep breath. Hello and welcome to episode 330 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at Dynasty Dad FF. We are just 24 days away from the NFL draft, and I'm starting to really jump into startups. I'm starting to get these dynasty trades going. No better values right now than the wide receiver veterans. We've talked to you guys, ad nauseum in the past about foundational wide receivers. Your Justin Jeffersons, your Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., guys that are going to be a staple of your lineup for the next 5, 6, 7 years. What I'm really starting to do is the value on these veterans, these guys that are that next step down. That's who I'm really interested in because these guys are giving you crazy amounts of value. Nobody better to talk dynasty values than my main man, Snoog. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to jump into this one. I mean, you want to talk about guys with wide receiver one overall upside and league winning upside in a year-to-year basis. It's this group of wide receivers that we're talking about. So excited to jump into this one. Make sure you guys check out the Rookie Smash Guide. Version 2.0 drops tomorrow. 70 plus prospects, rankings, player comps, player profiles on every player in order, exactly how you want. And bios, everything, analytics, statistics, everything you could ask for in a rookie guide. That's there. It's coming out tomorrow. So DM Dynasty Dad or me if you're interested in that. And then Dad, I'll kick it over to you for the Discord and then we'll jump into this thing.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the Patreon is blowing up. I mean, more guys add every single day. We're now up close to 700 people in there, which is amazing because this year, last year, this time, there was about 35 people, so like people are starting to understand that this is the fastest growing Dynasty Discord, period. What you guys do, you go to patreon.com/smash accept. You pay your entry fee, depending on what tier you want. We have things as low as, you get all the content, you get the group chat, you get DM access, all the way up to rebuild assistance, startup assistance, all these different things. We are here to create a one-stop shop. So you guys that don't like Twitter, you guys that don't like threads, jump in here because you have my content, Snoog's content, all the rookie content, everything that you need, plus 700 people in there talking shop 24/7. They're talking about, everything from what just happened with free agency to what they're going to do in their rookie picks. It's going to be an awesome spot. I know they're going to be talking about real soon is this. So we've coined the term foundational wide receivers several years ago, right? This is the guys that you build around. It's why you draft Malik Neighbors and CeeDee Lamb in rounds 1 and 2. But Snoog, I'm doing startups right now. And the value of these guys, and we're going to call this the wide receiver production pillar. These are guys that are 26 to 28 years old, which we know in fantasy means they're in the prime of their career. These guys' value has dipped because the community as a whole has really started to become ageist as far as, oh, that guy's 26. I better sell now before he dips. It used to be once they turn 30, I'm going to start selling them. Now they're trying to get out ahead of the game. It's creating values for Nico Collins, AJ Brown, T. Higgins, DJ Moore, Devonta Smith. These guys are the pillars that every week they have the opportunity to put up 20 points and win you your week.
Yeah, these guys are superstars, especially the first three that we're going to jump into. They're kind of those injury-prone type of players that people kind of have that bad taste in their mouth with that, oh, well, when they're playing, they're elite, but there's a hamstring injury, there's a knee injury, there's all these type of issues with Nico Collins, AJ Brown, T. Higgins. I don't care. When they're ready to go, when they're playing, they're putting up 25 fantasy points in a week or 40 on a really, really, really good week. They're league-winning players per week. Go get yourself a Justin Jefferson and a Garrett Wilson or a Drake London if you want consistent weeks. If you want to win weeks, these are the guys you want to pair with these type of players. So I'm excited to jump into this first guy here as a Texans fan and someone that's watched this guy absolutely blow up onto the scene the past 2 seasons. He's a steal in that late second round if you're looking for maybe your second or your first foundational wide receiver to build around.
Yeah, and right now, Nico Collins, wide receiver 8. He's 26 years old. I pulled up a tweet the other day. If you want to throw up some trades from Dynasty Data Lab, we'll start working through this. What I want to look at is a tweet that I had in June of 2027 or June 27th of 2023. I put Nico Collins right now is the biggest steal in Dynasty. He's going in the 15th round as wide receiver 68. Now he's going as wide receiver 8. Sometimes the writing's on the wall once they added Stroud. But despite his injuries, the offensive line struggles over the last year and a half. Nico's absolutely thrived with 148 receptions, 2,003 receiving yards, 15 touchdowns, and 17.5 fantasy points per game. Nico Collins is the type of wide receiver, Snoog, where I love having him as my wide receiver 1. In a lot of situations, I have him as my wide receiver 2. And he just puts up elite. What I'm looking at in this pillars of production is week winning, but also league winning. If you have Nico Collins, he can put you on your back. He can take you on the back, drive you through the playoffs, and get you, where we're all ultimately trying to be for your dynasty glory and win your title.
Yeah, let's pull up some trades here and kind of dive into the Nico Collins trade landscape. But he just got a new offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, coming from that Rams system, that Rams tree, that McVay style of offense. Nico Collins is so good in space, so good across the middle of the field, and that's where CJ Stroud attacks the best. I think that those two are going to do ridiculous things the next 2 to 3 years with that. Might take them a little bit at first with a new system, completely new everything, but once they hit their stride, there's going to be a wide receiver 1 overall season for Nico Collins in his bag.
And you guys keep asking for more trade shows every Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time with the Brock Dynasty himself. He comes on as the host, and Snoog and I debate some trades. We're trying to incorporate more trades into our shows because I know that's what you guys really want. You guys want to smash those trades. So the first one we pulled up off of Dynasty Data Lab. Make sure you check them out, dynastydatalab.com. The first trade, Snoog, I want to talk about is the 27 first, the 202 and 203 for Nico Collins. Which side do you like here?
I like Nico all day long. I have him valued about 2 mid firsts. I think with the 27 class hype and 2 really early seconds in a class that's deep at the position at running back, pretty good wide receivers in the top 4 to 5, and then tight ends and quarterbacks. I just think the 202 and 203 are going to hold good value. I think this is a trade you can maybe finesse on rookie draft day when FOMO's kicking in, rookie draft, someone that needs to break down a Nico Collins and rebuild or something like that. I could see them taking advantage and trying to pull something off like this where you're turning 2 early seconds and a random 27 first and a Nico. Have them valued about 2 mid to late first, but this is a really good value for Nico Collins.
What I'm really trying to avoid is knowing where if that's a mid first, it's okay because that class is going to be fantastic, but you're going to get that immediate production from Nico. If it's late, I'm smashing this all day long. I mean, you're going to have Matthew Golden and, another guy in this area where maybe it's the RB six of the class.
Dart,
right. And what we know is that's not a sure thing. Like the wide receivers that are going this area, it's not a sure thing. The running backs, first round picks,
good, right? It feels like it feels like everyone's gonna hit today. And then you look at the early second range the past 5 years of rookie drafts, and you're probably looking, I don't know the exact hit rate, but it's very hit or miss. Like even if it's like a guy like last year was like we were seeing Kincaid, Kendre Miller, Achane, all those type of guys going in that range in 2023. And then this past year, if you weren't getting Bo Nix or Michael Penix,
it was Trey Benson, Keon Coleman,
you brick that pick too. So it's really, really wishy-washy. If I can turn all that into a stud wide receiver like Nico Collins, I would do that all day.
Yeah, the hit rate for first is about 35%. I would say early seconds dips way into the low 20s. So it changes quite a bit, even though we like this class. This is interesting as well, because now we're talking about Nico Collins here, or the 106 and 110. For me, if I'm contending, I'm smashing Nico Collins all day. He's worth, at 106, you could get a Mika Ibuka, right? And at 110, Shedeur Sanders or, it's going to Colston Loveland, a lot of guys in that area, but none of them are Nico Collins right now. I think Ibuka is going to be a very nice wide receiver, but the more I look at this wide receiver class, Snoog, I think outside of Travis Hunter, I don't think we have, and maybe Tet, I don't think we have any dynasty wide receiver 1s. We have a lot of guys that have wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 type area, and I think that's perfectly fine. But Nico Collins just turned 26. Stop discounting him. This is a smash for me. And the other one here that I want here too. The other one I want you to cover here is DK Metcalf, another guy that's in the same age area, right? But I did not list him as the pillars because, moving to Pittsburgh and possibly now he's 28 right now. So he's going to be turning 29. So he'll be out of that area. But DK Metcalf, a 26 first and 26 second. Let's call them both mid for Nico Collins. Which side do you like?
I like Nico here, but this is really good. I think this is like above market value you're paying for Nico. Because DK is a very talented wide receiver. He's still young. I just don't want a guy in Pittsburgh, 1, with Arthur Smith, and 2, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't go there, they don't get Dart. I want nothing to do with anybody on the Steelers. I already don't want anybody to do with them because I hate their coaching staff and their offensive scheme. But you're getting a guy that is guaranteed a top 5 to 10 finish when he's healthy, even a top 3 finish when he's healthy, and Nico Collins for a fringe wide receiver 2, maybe strong wide receiver 3 production, and a random 26 first in a class that's considered very weak right now. All day long, going to do that to tear up. Like, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take your Zay Flowers, your DK Metcalfs, your Jordan Addisons, and get to these guys, right? Get to your Nicos, your AJ Browns, your T Higgins, your Devonta Smiths, because that's how you're going to really tear up in production.
So the next guy, AJ Brown, I love AJ Brown. His ADP right now is 309. This is someone that is absolutely an elite producer, someone that will win you your weeks, win you your leagues. You look at what he's done in since coming over with the Eagles, 2022, 17.6 fantasy points per game, 2023, 17.0. This past year, 16.7. And a lot of people, he missed a couple of games. So everyone's starting to write that off. Snoog, you have to at least look at, he's my wide receiver 14. The value is very baked in, but he's still just 27 years old. And the way I see things right now, and everybody talking about the tush push and trying to drop Jalen Hurts' value, why does that not increase AJ Brown's value? AJ Brown is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. If the tush push goes away, AJ Brown's touchdowns are going to go up. If the tush push goes away, yeah, exactly. So like
Saquon's got 40 touchdowns rushing.
Jalen Hurts is still an elite quarterback. He's still going to put up crazy points. AJ Brown is arguably, to me, one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver value in Dynasty. Like I said,
easily.
I have him in Smash Except 18. I got him as my wide receiver 2. And I mean, if you could get AJ Brown as your wide receiver 2, you smash that all day long. He is absolutely elite. Like in trades like this, Snoog. I mean, again, pulling up trades from Dynasty Dad Lab. Ricky Purcell, who, is starting to get some buzz. If Brandon Ayuk gets traded, Ricky Purcell could fill into that wide receiver 1 role. But I think if they do that, they'll definitely draft someone. And then the 109, again, in that area of Ibuka, Judkins, Caleb Johnson, Colston Loveland, in that area, or the real deal of AJ Brown.
Yeah, it's AJ Brown all day. Again, another trade I really think can get done because of rookie fever, because of the Ayuk news, because Debo's gone, because Ricky Pearsall's flying up draft boards in that wide receiver 25 to 30 something range. This is just, again, buying a name that's getting fatigued to a lot of people. Like, people are sick of AJ Brown at this point. They're like, the drama. He didn't really play a lot last year. The injuries. He had 1,060 plus yards and 7 touchdowns in like 12 and a half games. He was pacing out 1,400 yards for a 3rd straight season. He's as elite as it comes. He has top 5 upside in any given year, especially if there's an injury to someone else in the wide receiver core or team in general. I just think you're turning mid and a good pick that I think is going to be a good player, especially if it's a Ibuka, Johnson, or Judkins. But they're not going to be AJ Brown. Like, they're not. I don't care if they hit their ceiling. Like, they're still. I don't think Pearsall's the gap for me. I need more.
AJ Brown's worth the 102. Like, I'm not paying that, but he's worth the 102. Ricky Purcell in the 109 shouldn't get you the 102. It's just people right now have the rookie fever for those later firsts. I just don't see it because I think AJ Brown, since coming to Philly, 261 receptions, 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns. You're getting 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns every single year. Like, just set it and forget it for the next 2 years. AJ Brown is the real deal. This is another one where Snoog and I always try to tear off those mid-range wide receivers. Do I like Jordan Addison? Yes. Do I want to start Jordan Addison? Not over AJ Brown. And if I can go where, if you look at this particular trade, Snoog, Jordan Addison, the 111, 211, that means you just missed the championship last year. And now you're going to just take, a couple shots in the dark and you're going to tear up to AJ Brown. Smash all day long. Smash.
Yep.
This next one.
Going back to what we talked about, turning Flowers, Addison, Jamison Williams, all those type of guys, taking your late first and in some seconds and going up and getting T. Higgins, AJ Brown, some of these guys. Maybe not for T, but for AJ Brown and Nico especially. Like, get off those guys. Like, why do you want 212 fantasy points? Like, do you want to win, or do you want a flex, or do you want a wide receiver 3? That's the point we're coming to.
Exactly. And Snoog, the more I play Dynasty, I mean, I've been doing this since 2014. I was playing redraft before most of you guys were born. But the interesting part is I draft the same players. AJ Brown's a guy that I'm all in on. And I'm like, I'm doing Smash Except 18, and I'll be like, oh man, I don't like any of these tight ends. I was like, I want Kittle. I went out and traded for him. I'm getting him. AJ Brown's another one. I have him in over 50% of my leagues, and I'm happy with it because you can make trades where even if you have elite wide receivers, and this is what I want to really dig deep in with you, is a guy like Jamar Chase, a guy like Justin Jefferson. They're fantastic. I love them. Both of them. You know, I think Jefferson's going to turn 26. Jamar Chase is going to turn 25. And A.J. Brown is 27. If you can get for Jamar Chase, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's a foundational wide receiver, a 26-second that's random, and A.J. Brown, why would you not smash this? Like, because this is so insulated, right? It's like A.J. Brown can put up at least 90% of what Jamar Chase does, at 85 to 90% all the time. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba is ascending to a point where his value is getting difficult to accumulate. I mean, then I take that 26-second and I buy Alvin Kamara, and now all of a sudden, dude, I got three beasts. You know, like this is something that I'm interested in.
Yeah, it's definitely something I'm interested in. Obviously, when you have Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, you're not like, I would desperately want to trade one of these guys. But when you can kind of get two cornerstone foundational pieces in a second, this is like a rebuilder trade. This is a trade that I want to do. If it's start 12, start 11, you can start up to 5-6 wideouts. And I have a couple other good wideouts, but I have maybe some stinky flexes that I don't like, that aren't really great, or I have a weak wide receiver 3 and 4. Like, these are the type of moves that I can say, okay, now I'm going to get two top 12 to 14 dynasty wide receivers. What can I do with that 26-second? Can I use that second in another Keon Coleman, or can I use it in Jameson Williams if I have him, or someone like that? And then can I go get Devonta Smith or DJ Moore or Jordan Addison or someone like that? Like, use that 26-second piece to build else with something else. Don't just keep it. Use it for something else. Like you said, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, those type of guys. Use it to win, because this is a move that you can do to win and rebuild with. So I love doing these type of trades when selling an elite asset. But I'm not just selling Jamar Chase for 111, a 26 first, and a random 27 first, right? I'm doing it for this package is worth 4 firsts all day.
And what I like about this is a lot of you guys come to us with roster reviews, and Snoog and I have done 1.5 million of them, it feels like. But I see these guys that don't have a 26 first. They don't have a 25 first. They don't have a 27 first. And I'm like, then you need to insulate in a different way. And insulating, taking the production pillar of A.J. Brown, getting the foundational piece of Jackson Smith and Jigba, and now all of a sudden adding another pick here. This is how you start to build longevity. Jamar Chase, I would, on the flip side, I would add A.J. Brown. And, if I'm really trying to get myself into a position, I would add from A.J. Brown plus to get to Jamar Chase, but I'm not adding a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba or Drake London. I'm not adding another foundational piece. I would add Jordan Addison in a first. Sure.
Yep.
I would add Ricky Purcell in a first. Absolutely. Because then I'm going to a guy like Jamar Chase, who's foundational for the next 6 years. You're going to get wide receiver 1 production, someone that is absolutely elite, and someone that you and I both think is phenomenal. I mean, he's arguably the wide receiver 1 every single year. He's in that spot. Sticking to the same team, T. Higgins is the next guy on this list. So, like, T. Higgins has just – there's been a value dip on T. Higgins because it was like, well, where's he going to go? What's going to happen? He doesn't have the contract. Those days are gone. 4-year deal with Joe Burrow. He should be treated as a dynasty wide receiver 1. He's my wide receiver 16. So with the age, he's right there on that fringe, I think. But he has wide receiver 1 upside every single time he steps foot on the field. Injuries have been a concern, but over his last 77 games, Snoog, all right, this is wild. 563 targets, that's 7.3 per game, 361 catches, 5,000 yards, and 37 touchdowns. He catches a touchdown in 50% of his games. That's wild.
Yeah.
At the wide receiver position, that's fairly unheard of. Like, he is someone that tied to Joe Burrow. If I have Joe Burrow, it's a much cheaper stack to take A.J. Brown at his ADP, or I'm sorry, to take T. Higgins at his ADP of 405 than to take Jamar Chase, where you have to trade up and get at that 106. T. Higgins is a perfect stack with Joe Burrow. This is one where we're going to talk again. We don't hate Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Jalen Waddle. Like, we don't hate these guys, but I want to tier up. I want to tier up, and I want to get to someone that is one of these production pillars like a T. Higgins. And let's jump into some trades of T. Higgins, because his value, it should be very similar to the other two, but you're getting T. Higgins value considerably less. Like Nico's a step ahead, but AJ Brown and T. Higgins, both of them are phenomenal players. You can tear down on trades like this. So if you had Puka Nacua right now, and let's say this isn't like an all-in contender move, or it could be where you're trying to add a running back at 106, but would you rather Puka Nacua or T. Higgins in the 106?
I'm taking T. Higgins all day here, all day long. I know that 106 is going to be a good player just based off there's like about 8 or 9 guys that I'd be very comfortable with taking there at the 106 that are probably going to get first round draft capital in this class, whether it's a superstar, one of these stud running backs that are coming out of this rookie class, or Buka, maybe Travis Hunter, one of these guys. T. Higgins outscored Puka Nacua last year in points per game. He paced out 1,300 plus yards and like 15 plus touchdowns. Wide receiver 2 overall in points per game. Newsflash, Bengals defense still sucks. Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase all got a big contract to stay there and play. They're going to be gunslinging and throwing that football 45, 50 times a game all year. T. Higgins is going to be a top 5 to 10 finisher, and I'm getting the 106 for Puka. Puka's great player. He's in my top 7 to 8 foundational piece, but I'm getting a damn near foundational piece in T. Higgins plus another piece that could be foundational, right? So that's the game we play, and I love this tier off option.
What's fun is, and I know you're still going with the foundational because they're really close, right? These guys are pillars of production. These are guys that you could, when I say pillar, when you build, old school Roman architecture, when you're building your own things, it's a pillar holds things up. And these guys are going to hold up in value, and they're going to hold up in production. If this was the 107, I would not do it. I think 106 is the line for me. But I think T. Higgins over the last 4 seasons with Joe Burrow has averaged over 70 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and over 7 touchdowns. That is damn near, like Snoog kept saying, foundational, but you're getting him because he just turned 26, because he is 26.1 years old. So he just turned 26. That is just a gap now where
I consider that we call that fringe. We call that fringe foundational because he's probably going to be good for another 4 to 5 years. So I consider that like, okay, that's a young enough piece where I know he's not going to lose value really, but he's not like Puka Nacua or Drake London, 23 years old, that can gain a ton of value and still have like 9 years, right? Where you're like locking him in as cornerstone, but fringe foundational piece there.
And that's where we're going. That's what we're calling the pillars, is these are guys that are fringe foundational. They're not Mike Evans. And let's be honest, let's talk about this real quick, Snoog, because honestly, AJ Brown, Nico Collins, T. Higgins, Devonta Smith, DJ Moore, they're the new version of what you were able to get for Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, right? These are these new guys that were, remember, when those guys turned 27, their value dipped.
They started dipping.
AJ Brown's freaking 32. He's 32 and he's still doing it.
I think Kupp's the only one that's really kind of stopped producing after that big year he had. If you look at like Diggs, Adams, Tyreek, those guys, Tyreek and Adams in the past like 3-4 years have like 4 or 3 top 10 finishes, a couple in the top 3. So like Nico Collins, AJ Brown, T. Higgins especially, DJ Moore and Devonta Smith probably are always more in that top 20 range, but we'll get into those guys here because the value is incredible.
The next one here I'm looking at, it's the 205, another FOMO, fear of missing out on your rookie drafts. The 205 is very hit or miss this year. I like some of the running backs that could fall there. I liked, some of the wide receivers. Trey Harris is fantastic, but Trey Harris's career arc, you would die to have that to be T. Higgins. Like that's what you would hope Trey Harris is. But then if you take a mid 26 first, which is a down year, a lot of times, you're trading that 26 first. Give me T. Higgins there. And the one I want you to talk about is value-wise right now, this is something that I think is very achievable. Taking a Kyron Williams, a Chase Brown, a Josh Jacobs, a James Cook, and adding a mid to late second and getting a wide receiver where this is almost a reduced volatility, because you can add at 207, you can buy James Conner. If you have other late seconds, you can buy Aaron Jones, you can buy Najee Harris, you can buy something cheap, but you can't replace T. Higgins.
Exactly. And we talk about this group of wide receivers, your James Cooks, your Kyrons, your Chase Browns. They're going to, when they're starters, they're going to give you good production, but that's the most volatile position in fantasy football. I would not be surprised if all three of those guys are nothing in 2 years. T. Higgins, on the other hand, he's going to be a fringe wide receiver 1 for the next 2 to 3 years. So I like just taking that volatile position and turning them into either veteran running backs plus picks, like we've talked about many times on the show, or just taking a Kyron, a James Cook, a Chase Brown, getting a Devonta Smith plus, getting a T. Higgins, adding for an A.J. Brown, or adding a first for a Nico Collins. Those are the type of moves that you make. You don't look back and you think 2 years down the road. Like, I traded Kyron Williams for Nico Collins. Like, those are the type of trades that will save your fantasy football teams from hitting a big value drop, because you never know what could happen. All it takes is one injury for a running back, or it takes them adding in a Nash and Genty or a Amarian Hampton that falls to their pick that they didn't think would. And they're like, we can't pass up on this guy. He's our best player on our board. So that's kind of why I like to fade the running backs, especially this time of the year, and buy them right before the season. Because we can kind of see like what happens and who to target.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, the next guy here, a lot of people come to me and they're like, I don't like having 2 Eagles wide receivers. And I'm like, oh, you don't like to win. I'm sorry about you. That's not good. But Devonta Smith at 509, like you could take AJ Brown in the 3rd, get another running back in the 4th or something elite there in the 4th. And then in the 5th, you could still take Devonta Smith, who he's my wide receiver 18, 26.5 years old, which surprising. I didn't realize that he was older than Nico Collins and T. Higgins. He just seems a lot younger. But since 2025, if you compare the first 4 seasons with Devonta Smith to Deshaun Jackson, who everybody loves, right? Devonta, 308 receptions, 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns. Deshaun Jackson, who's considered an all-time Eagle great and one of the best wide receivers to do it, 229, 4,000, and 28. He's right on par with Deshaun Jackson, and he's the wide receiver 2. He's the most stable wide receiver 2 other than T. Higgins. I would argue that he's more stable than T. Higgins because he doesn't get hurt. He does not miss games. But the Slim Reaper himself, he's got wide receiver 1 upside on a weekly basis. And let's call it what it is. As A.J. Brown gets older, which I think he's going to continue to win, Devonta Smith's value could increase, because we could see an area where this year we already talked about the Browns. A.J. Brown potentially getting traded from the Eagles. If he leaves the Eagles, Devonta Smith could be a top 12 dynasty wide receiver. Yeah, exactly. He's that good. So when we start to pull up trades with him, I know you love Devonta Smith. People have soured because they're like, oh, he's wide receiver 17 to 20 every year. That wins you weeks. That wins you games. That's what you want. You want more of those kind of guys on your roster, not less.
At least he's giving you that and giving you more upside than a Zay Flowers, a Jordan Addison, a Jameson Williams, a DK Metcalf. I have a tweet going out that I'm going to pair up with this show when we drop this show, that there's no better move than you can make than getting off those guys. Your Brandon Ayuk's, your Zay, get off those guys. They're just not gaining any value. They never will, and they're not great players. So go get better players that are pretty similar in value, like a Devonta Smith and DJ Moore. Speaking of Zay Flowers, look at this trade right away. These are the type of trades that I'd be looking to try and make. Is it turning a Zay Flowers in a second into a Devonta Smith? I don't even need the 3rd there, and I'm still doing it. I'll even add a 3rd or another second to that Flowers side if I can get a 3rd back, right? That's the type of things. And again, same type of deal. These type of trades, I've seen them go down in leagues I'm in. I've seen them on Dynasty Data Lab. I've seen them on Keep Trade Cut. I've seen them on Twitter. We've been tagged in trade polls that are similar to these type of trades. If you're listening to this show and you have these players, go and do it right now.
Yeah, Flowers, Addison, Ayuk. I like Ayuk, but Flowers, Addison, Ayuk, Jameson Williams, add a second, get Devonta Smith, and get a 3rd thrown on. Snoog, both these deals, this Devonta Smith in 306, Devonta Smith in 302. I don't think the 3rd should be thrown in there, because this year's early 3rds, I think from 206 to 304, the value isn't that much different. You're going to get Tootin at 302 and some of them. You're going to get a Martinez. Yeah, the running backs are so deep, those early 3rds. This is dynasty stealing, because you're upgrading at wide receiver. Yeah. You're getting younger at wide receiver, and I think there's a real world scenario where the 302 is worth more than a 26 late second by the time you get to draft day, because you're going to be able to get things in there. And trades like this. I mean, if Bryce Young is my quarterback 3, quarterback 4, and I don't truly need him, get Devonta Smith. Go out there, Devonta for Bryce Young in the 302. I'm taking that all day long. I think I think Bryce Young is fine, and he's increased in value. But Snoog, as the super flex position grows, as the quarterbacks grow, there's that whole list of middle guys, just like we talk about with wide receivers. I don't want anything to do with them. I want to tier up to the elite or give me cheap production with a Stafford type. So the last guy in our pillars, and one of my favorites, honestly, I've loved this guy over the years. I think his value is tremendous. DJ Moore right now going at the 601. And again, because of Smash 8,
career
18, I've been drafting all these guys. He's my wide receiver 20. He's 27.9. So he's going to be, he's going to be 28 years old, but still in this pillars of production. 4 straight seasons, Snoog, of 17 games played. He don't miss. Like, he just does not sit. His average from being with the Bears, okay? And let me just preface this by saying this is the year where he becomes Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Bears. Like, he is going to go off. I think DJ Moore is going to leave. I think Keenan Allen's going to leave and DJ Moore is going to thrive. But in his 2 seasons, one with Fields, one with Caleb, 138 targets per season, 97 receptions average, 1,215 yards and 7 touchdowns. Come on, tell me that's not elite. Like, that's, and he is still 27 years old.
Ben Johnson, another year chemistry with Caleb Williams. Yeah, we saw the upside as a top 6 finisher with Justin Fields. Mm-hmm. Think about what he's going to do with Ben Johnson, a real coach, a real elite offensive mind coach with Caleb Williams. I think DJ Moore is going to be a really, really big finisher this year. Like, I think he has top 5 to 10 upside in his bag, but he has a floor of like top 15, top 20.
And I know he feels like he's 30 years old, right? Because when the Panthers took him, he was only 20. He wasn't even old enough to drink. And I hate the fact that, he was having back-to-back wide receiver, top 24 seasons with trash quarterbacks. They kind of wasted his early
form. You're going to like it too. He reminds me of Stephon Diggs. Remember when he was on the Vikings, just always like, you knew he was really good. You knew he was a 1,000-yard receiver, right? And then he finally gets that elite quarterback and that elite coaching staff with Dabble and McDermott. And then he got Josh Allen and he blew up. I think this is when we're going to get that. And it was the same type of age. I think Diggs was like 27, 28 years old when he went to Buffalo. This is the type of vibe I'm getting with DJ Moore. And they're similar players and they win in similar ways.
So the career arc there. Yeah, the career arc there. I like that a lot because DJ Moore wins in the same ways, and he's just been a staple of health. I mean, like 17 games, 4 years in a row. Now you see a trade here, Stephon Diggs, who Diggs' value has recouped, but let's call it what it is. He is 30 plus. He is on the Patriots, which is great for him, but he is still coming off a major injury. So Stephon Diggs in the 204 or DJ Moore?
I'm taking DJ Moore all day long. And these are the type of trades that I would be trying to make. Taking a vet, taking an early second, and trying to get these type of players.
Or just a random late first. If you're, I always say, a lot of people come to me and they're like, Dad, I'm a contender if I buy this guy. And I'm like, you're not if you buy this guy. Like, if you trade your late first. However, if you have 3 wide receivers, you have Jefferson, you have Neighbors, and you have London, and you need a depth piece of DJ Moore. DJ Moore's value is considerably more than that late 26 first, and I'm all in on that. Just be careful because a lot of guys come to me and they're like, look at this. The lineup's all good except for my second flex. So if I trade a first for DJ Moore, I'm going to get there. Then I look at their bench and it's nothing but like, it's nothing but like Darius Slayton's. And I'm like, no. Make sure your bench is filled out. This one's interesting, Snoog, because Saquon Barkley last year, you guys all know we were making insulated trades. I was buying Saquon everywhere. Saquon in a first for Christian McCaffrey. And you guys are like, if you're new to Dynasty, you're like, that's not possible. Yeah, it was this time last year. Now we're saying if we're trading Saquon Barkley, would you rather have Saquon in a late 26 second or DJ Moore in a mid 26 first?
I think depending on the league, if it's like 0.25 per carry, I'd probably lean Saquon. But like, this is a great move if I'm trying to rip the thing down and rebuild and get younger and retool and kind of build up my wide receiver core. I like the DJ Moore side here. I mean, you're getting a first and a top 18 to 19 dynasty wide receiver for Saquon coming off a career year. I mean, if they ban the tush push, I don't like trading Saquon Barkley, but this type of trade is just a good insulated trade where you're just getting younger, getting picks that are going to go up in value and a player that's going to go up in value potentially.
Low key, he could have had like 30 touchdowns if the tush push was put away. So guys, again, this is wide receiver production pillars. Nico Collins, AJ Brown, T. Higgins, DJ Moore, Devonta Smith. As you're doing your startup drafts, consider these guys. You're in that area where you're taking AJ Brown and you're taking in the 3rd round, and you can get DJ Moore in the 6th round. You can get T Higgins in the 4th round. I'm not saying take all of these guys, but I'm saying you sprinkle these guys in, you get some elite foundational pieces, you add these guys. They are production pillars that are going to win you your leagues. They're going to go out there and they're going to put up 20 plus points, and you're going to dominate. So guys, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button for the YouTube. Check out Smash Accept Patreon. Honestly, if you don't like it, I'll buy you a cup of coffee and give you your money back, because you're going to love it. So many guys, Snoog and I are degenerates, and we've always wanted at home where people could just come in and talk trash, talk trades, talk, what's going on in their leagues. Honestly, the amount of talk just in trade polls, the other day I did on the trade show, I was like, let's go look at some of these polls. Within an hour, there were 42 trade polls without trolls from Twitter just being like, no, we don't like this. And comments underneath. So you post, hey, would you rather have Saquon in a 2nd or DJ Moore in a 1st? And you're going to get real live answers on there, as well as access to Snoog and I. So it's the best deal out there. Join the fastest growing Discord in Dynasty. Guys, I want to thank you guys for tuning in and enjoy the process.